So the markets have been up around 6% in the last 7 days. However, in the last 30 days, we're still down around 10%. So we're going to see some on-chain data. We're going to give you updates around stablecoins market cap, chain comparisons, and more interesting TVL updates for the last week. So welcome to this week's weekly crypto update ecosystem analysis. Yeah, so let's start. First of all, we're gonna have the total stablecoins market cap. So the total stablecoins market cap has continued to rise around 232 billion. This is all-time levels. I think last week it's only around 229, so it's a 3.2 increase in the last 7 days. Yeah, by today it's Monday, so by Monday today there has been still an inflow for the total stablecoin market cap. And in the last 30 days, it reaches 5.7 billion US dollars, which is huge. So let's see which stablecoins are actually leading the inflows. So we got here in the last 7 days, 1 billion of USDC mints. If we can see here more detail, more breakdown, we can see Avalanche, Sui, Algo, Sonic, and Arbitrum are actually minting more and more stablecoins. This might be actually interesting for Arbitrum because considering the size of 1.8 billion, I think by value, Arbitrum must have one of the highest mints on USDC in the last 7 days. And the trend is also true for the last 1 month. So there might be some interesting opportunities for Arbitrum because, yeah, that's where DeFi is actually quite active. And today, DeFi is actually a Arbitrum delegate as well. Yeah, might be interesting to look. And also an interesting increase from the BlackRock USD, which is the BUIDL. So these are actually treasury-backed stablecoins. If you can see from our latest newsletter in our last week in DeFi, we summed up last week's most interesting news that I gathered. So there's this one news talking about Spark, which concluded the tokenization Grand Prix. So they had a campaign or like an event where they had the competitions to select which stables back the treasury are actually most interesting. So they select BlackRock's BUIDL, Superstate's USDtb, and Centrifuge Enemies GTRSY as winners. So the initiative will actually onboard 1 billion into the tokenized RWAs and allocate stablecoin liquidity through the Spark liquidity layer. So Spark is actually a sub of MakerDAO. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. It's quite a huge protocol and DAO. So the pending Sky governance approval on April 3rd. So if the governance will be approved by April 3rd, the allocations will include 500 million for BUIDL. So yeah, you can see here the market have priced in and a lot of inflows has been going on to BlackRock's BUIDL, almost 1 billion. And the stables that are backed by the BlackRock BUIDL actually gained a lot of traction as well, like the Ethena USDtb and also the USD. Yeah, that's it for the stablecoins analysis. Now we're gonna do some chain comparisons. Yeah, for Ethereum, Solana, and BNB. Again, BNB has been outperforming in daily active adjusted trend. And also, this is true for the daily transactions that have been going on in the chain. Yeah, very interesting to look at the stablecoins supply on Binance chain. In the last 1 month, it has gained like quite significantly when compared to Ethereum and Solana. What has been interesting for me is actually the fees and revenues, because this will actually be the confirmation and the big catalyst for the token itself. Yeah, major increase in the fees generated in the last 2 weeks for BNB chain, and it's also true for the revenue, whereas Ethereum Solana hasn't been performing as well as the BNB, and it is very obvious for the trends. Yeah, interesting to look at. I think this is actually true because CZ is actually quite promoting BSC in the last 1 or 2 weeks, and on chain they're like now having like purse trading for some memes on BNB chain, and I think it's quite trending in the last like weeks, 1 week or 2 weeks. Mobart and bananas, yeah, meme coins on the chains. All right, for layer 2s, we can see a substantial increase in the stablecoin supply in both Arbitrum and Base. Not for OP mainnet. It's been quite terrible when compared to Arbitrum and Base. Stablecoins transfer volume for Base has been performing quite well. So this actually significant. So actually this reflects some on-chain activity significantly going on in Base. We're gonna talk about Base later on because it's quite interesting to see. For CBL, yeah, also true for Base, increasing quite significantly. I think it's more of a recovery trend rather than like stably increasing, but it's still good to see, good to look at. Nothing have been going on for the revenues and fees on layer 2s. For layer 1s, this is very interesting since we can see here a V-shaped recovery from near protocol here for daily active addresses, and this is actually also reflected in the daily transactions that has been happening on the chain as well. So it's actually valid. So it's reflected in the daily transactions. So it's not only like ghost addresses that has not been doing any activity, but the daily active address increase also reflected in the daily transactions. But we're gonna confirm that in the fees and revenues, are they actually increasing as well? Yeah, but you can see it's also increasing. So it's actually valid. So there has been some activity going on near protocol. Might be worth to look at later on. So I think that this is actually also the effect of mainnet upgrade. So the point of this upgrade is to actually increase the capacity for the network itself. So this actually invites more and promotes more activity and capability in the chain itself. So this might be a good catalyst, and I think the token itself is actually doing quite well in the last 1 week. Yep, you can see here around 16% increase in the last 1 week. So yeah, quite significant increase for near protocol. That might be an interesting catalyst in the future as well. There's no major activity going on for ZK chains, but if you can remember, if I actually mentioned like the ZK Sync era Ignite, it has been discontinued. So I predicted like the TBL will actually decrease in price, decrease in value, sorry. And it actually really happened, and yeah, it's actually a very bad trend for ZK Sync era right now in terms of CBL. However, it's not true for the revenues and fees generated from the ZK Sync era, because weirdly enough, the ZK Sync era is actually having a little bit better trend on fees and revenues when compared to the other chains like Line, Linea, Scroll, and Starknet. And yeah, I think that's all for that one. Now we're gonna look at the 7 days TBL change. So the last 7 days, what has been interesting for me is Base and Sonic. Yeah, yet again, Sonic. In the last 2 weeks, I've been talking about Sonic's like Rings protocol, Euler, that has been growing substantially on Sonic. Also, PenPy went live on Sonic, which also introduces like more farming activities on Pendle itself. Yeah, but we're gonna break down Base first. So let's look at Base. So the trend on Base, is it like continuous growth and like linear growth? Except I think it's more of a recovery phase for Base, but it has been increasing in the last 7 days, and it's true when we look at some protocols and we want to look at the top 7 days change. We can see like Curve and Airdrop. Both protocols doesn't have like interesting pools to actually participate in right now. So yeah, these are the pools on Curve. 13% CRV if you for this strategic ETH pool. Yeah, some pools here you can actually look if you are interested in farming in Base on Curve. Yeah, some interesting pools here. But however, I think I would like to actually highlight Sonic rather than base because the trend is here is way more substantial and we're way more noticeable than what base is actually happening right now. So if we look at the top protocols that have been going on Sonic, again, Pendle and also AV. Yeah. So first of all, gonna see AV for now. And it's true, look at this trend, is very, it's like a linear trend. It's growing quite substantially. But however, I think in the dashboard itself, in the app itself, I think there's no like significant APYs that are being offered by AV. However, if you talk here a little bit, you can see there has been like a rewards program for the S tokens, or here you can see AWS. This is Sonic tokens, like maybe some liquid staking tokens that are actually being gifted as the APY tokens here on AV. So people seems to be very interested. You can see here the total supply is 162 million, which is very huge. It's 127 million of S supplied here as well to the pool. So yeah, you can check on here for participating on this pool and actually getting like some points for the next S airdrop campaign. Yeah, that might be interesting to look at because on Pendle itself is actually also true. We can see here a dashboard made by Jonazo for Pendle on Sonic. We can see in the last 1 week, so you can see a huge increase of AUSDC has been deployed on the Pendle dashboard, the Pendle app, and the pools. If we can see here, if you provide liquidity right now, you can get around 15.32% boosted APY. And yeah, here again, you can get 20x Sonic points for this pool. Yeah, this pool is actually quite new. It's only 1 week being live, and it offers 20x Sonic points above 15% max APY for liquidity providing in this pool. So yeah, this might be very interesting to look at. Yeah, I think the Sonic Airdrops campaign program, which is upcoming, might be interesting for you to actually farm. On Pendle, it gives you 20x Sonic points. On AV, it gives you around maximum like 10x Sonic points above 8% AWS rewards. So I think that's it for this week's crypto ecosystem update and analysis. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.